So my onesie got Tammy's approval.
Fuck. God damn it. Oh. What?
Never mind.
When?
My onesie got Tammy's approval.
Oh, yeah.
She said that usually she doesn't like these things. She made it. Usually, I don't like those things. Okay. She's like, but honestly, that's just great. You look like a drunk Teletubby. I was like, that's a great way to fucking. That's perfect description of what this is. I was like, and there's a butt flap, and the feet unzip. I can air my feet. Mama. Mom. Lindsay. I'm gonna kill her. Okay, so for tonight, Nan's project goes meow. What's this? I like that you're just holding the two confused. Just confusion. Okay. Mama. Okay, yeah. Very discreet. Why? Oh. Regular.
That was horrible aim, and I hope nobody saw that. That was very bad.
Iron, obviously. Unless I can see my, as much as I adore my neighbors. Hello. Hello. Looks like I fucking fell into a doorknob. Honestly, I'm kind of happy I don't have friends sometimes. Like, I just don't care for the nonsense. Because that's essentially all that is. Just a bunch of fucking bullshit nonsense. Now. I'm just saying that I can hide that on a fucking fat ass. Okay. Everyone knows it. What's on the boob tube? Yeah, Putin.
Will carry us from the past to the future. It is something that happens every day, minute and second. But we hear this ceaseless march of time, clearest of all, on New Year's Eve. We anticipate it is an important milestone. We are all united by a hope for a pleasant change. But we understand that it cannot be separated from the events of the year that has just passed. We have been met with colossal challenges, but we have learned to live in these harsh conditions, to solve difficult problems. We have managed to do so thanks to our solidarity. Together, we continue to fight a dangerous epidemic which has engulfed every continent and is still to subside. The insidious disease has taken tens of thousands of lives. I want to offer words of sincere support to those who have lost their relatives and loved ones. Dear friends, the most important thing is that we fought the challenges of this year together. We protected those who found themselves in a difficult situation. First of all, we supported older people and families with children who are the future of Russia. We consistently promoted our interest and the security of our country and our people. We quickly restored the economy and are now starting to tackle strategic development tasks. Of course, numerous problems remain unsolved, but we have completed this year with commendable results. And the credit here is mainly due to you, the citizens of Russia. It is, dear friends, the fruit of your hard work. Every one of you, in your respective roles, worked to carry out your duty, to do what you can, and even much more to help those having the hardest time. A heartfelt thank you to all of you. At difficult times like now, it is especially important to have a constructive mindset, to strive to realize your personal goals and help society and your country. On New Year's Eve, we hope the new year will bring new opportunities. We trust our luck, but understand that our fate is in our hands. It is our priorities, what we do on a daily basis, how devoted we are to what we do, and how persistent we are in achieving success. Our national plan's realization depends on the success of each of us. Our main goal is for the nation to live better. This will make Russia even stronger. It is only together that we can move forward and ensure the prosperity of our motherland. Dear friends, this night is full of warm feelings and good intentions. Everybody wants to show their best side, and this open and generous atmosphere is the spirit of this holiday, when we want to give our parents our attention and care, to embrace them if they are near and tell our loved ones that we love them. We are blessed with being in love, having children, a family and friends. All of these are fundamental values. They are the greatest things any of us have in our lives. We all want to be able to rely on them. Now we cannot wait to confess our innermost feelings to our loved ones, to openly and genuinely say that we love them
I would
and
love
thank
to
them.
hear that.
Something we often do not have time to do in our everyday lives.
Telling everybody to go tell their parents
But
that you love them.
that is the true New Year's magic, to make our hearts more sensitive and trusting,
Aw.
generous and merciful.
Yes, I like this.
Wherever you may be in this moment, among your family and friends, in the squares of cities dear to you, everywhere we hear the warmest wishes. I am happy to join those wishes and would like to wish Happy New Year, especially to those on duty, both civil and military. To those saving lives, protecting us from external and internal threats, operating transportation lines, certain industries and utilities. Hundreds of thousands of our compatriots are involved in these spheres. Thank you for your important work. Dear friends, it is only a few seconds to the new year, and in many Russian families, including those abroad, traditional Happy New Year greetings will be heard. These simple words resonate with us especially well because they are passed down from generation to generation. I congratulate you with all my heart. Most of all, I wish you good health, and that will help you succeed in your work, study, art, and hobbies. I wish that every family has more happy events, that more families are created, that more children are born, and that they grow up to be healthy, smart, honest, and free. Let love be in every heart and inspire us to achieve our goals and mount the highest summits. For those we love and our great and only motherland. Happy New Year, dear friends. Happy 2022.
Oh, is that it? This is very late. Nope. You back the fuck off. Mimsy, I don't give a shit. This thing smells really bad. Go eat your food.
The venues are ready. So is the Athletes Village and the extensive transportation network that's needed to host an event that will shine a spotlight on winter sports in Asia.
The Olympic Games is very important for China. It's important for Asian continent to develop winter sport. And of course, it's big expectation of development of the winter sport in China, in Asia after Beijing Games.
But the focus leading up to these Olympics has not been on sport. First, there's the ongoing pandemic. Fans from overseas have been banned, and serious steps are being taken to protect athletes. The buildings will be equipped with both air conditioning and a dedicated outdoor air system to ensure the circulation of fresh air, says the manager of resident services in the Olympic Village. But what about the air quality outdoors? Well, that's also a concern in a region dominated by heavy industry. Some authorities have warned that winter smog risks could be severe around Beijing, but Chinese government officials insist otherwise. They claim thousands of hectares of trees have been planted and sprawling wind farms have been built since the Olympics were first awarded back in 2015. In fact, the country claims these will be the first ever carbon-neutral Winter Games, with all venues being powered by renewable energy.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And then, of course, there's the troubling issue of human rights.
We are extremely concerned
For
by the repeated human rights violations
Here?
by the Chinese government.
Canada
No,
and the
not our
United
government,
States
no.
are among the
Our
nations
government's on the other
staging a
end.
diplomatic boycott of these games. While athletes will be allowed to attend, many countries won't be sending government officials in protest of China's human rights record.
U.S. diplomatic or official representation would treat these games as business as usual in the face of the PRC's egregious human rights abuses and atrocities.
As Chinese residents rush to embrace winter sports, many expect those pressing issues to fade into the background when the athletes finally take center stage. Former Olympic champion pole vaulter Sergei Bubka is now the president of the National Olympic Committee of Ukraine. He's also a believer in the power of the games.
The Olympics unite everyone, bring everyone together to show a strong message to the people all over the world that we can live in peace.
For City News, I'm Erica Natividad.
Oh God. Oh.
China wants the upcoming Beijing Olympics to be a one-of-a-kind event for many reasons. It aims to run the games on clean energy for one, and for this it has been building large solar parks. But behind the scene is the dark reality of land grabbing.
I like the old news reporter. You don't like change. I have a routine, okay? Oh no. Oh no. Fuck. Like. Stupid.
What?
Oh.
What?
Ugh.
Yeah, the daily challenges on the right. Oh. Earn 10 stars.
No.
Alright.
Mm.
Yeah, I pretty much gotta play anything. Yeah, I gotta clean my room station. Yeah, I have everything though. Probably gonna play match 4 first. Keep your secrets after that.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, that works. Yeah, that's good enough.
What causes borderline personality disorder?
Here to answer that question is leading clinical psychologist Dr. Ramani.
Everybody wants to know, with such a complicated clinical condition like borderline personality disorder, how did this happen? That's always the million-dollar question with any mental illness, frankly. And if you look at the work of Dr. Marsha Linehan, who's done a lot of the research in this area, a lot of her work and other people's work highlights this idea that it's two things coming together: a biological vulnerability and coming from an invalidating early environment. So the biological vulnerability part, that part we're not entirely clear what that's about. Is it genetic? Is it a neurotransmitter issue? But something biologically about that person has resulted in them being more hyperreactive. They sort of overreact with emotion, with sadness, with anger. That couples with coming from an early environment, usually a family environment, that's very invalidating, where people are downright hostile, abusive, negating, critical in a chronic way. Listen, no parent gets it right every time. This is the majority of the time. That environment is invalidating, and you can see how that becomes a setup for assuming that all environments are going to be invalidating. So there's this sort of hyper overreaction in the face of that. Now, where this work gets interesting is not everybody who comes from an invalidating environment develops borderline personality disorder. And not everyone who has that biological vulnerability develops borderline personality disorder. Obviously, if you have both, the probability goes way up. Now, an example of sort of the most extreme invalidating early environment is sexual abuse, childhood sexual abuse, right? That is an example where the child's trust is betrayed, they're confused, no one's keeping the child safe. However, the majority of people who experience childhood sexual abuse do not go on to develop borderline personality disorder. And a lot of people with borderline personality disorder did not experience sexual abuse as a child. So there's no absolutes here. And I think that frustrates people because everyone wants a slam dunk.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
I am frustrated just listening to that.
Yeah, it is. So whenever we sort of uncoil or unspool the history of somebody with borderline personality disorder, we definitely see that something wasn't quite right in that early environment in most cases. But I got to tell you, the longer I'm in this field, the more I hear tales of people who have borderline personalities as adults. I've worked with the parents and they'll say, listen, we have racked our brains. And this is multiple people. So it's not like one person could be deceiving and hiding this. And there's just no story there. There's no neglect. There's no abuse. There's no bullying. Like there's no smoking gun. So it really then comes down to, in those cases, it probably was all biological vulnerability. The research right now is focusing on uncovering what that biological vulnerability is. Remember, as with all mental illnesses, the earlier we can intervene, the better the work we can do. So if we could identify some of these early soft signs, we might be able to work with people to give them better coping skills, particularly around managing emotion.
Yes, and that is a common thread with all of the mental health issues we've been talking about. Early intervention and intense intervention is the key to almost anything.
Especially, and we often miss these things in childhood. That's where it gets tricky. For a lot of people, these patterns were apparent even in late childhood, early adolescence, but nobody really jumped on it until they were well into adulthood.
Or they say, well, he's 16,
yeah, 16,
so of course he'll grow out of it.
Yeah.
But if we don't know the biological component that could be causing this, the only way we're coming to that conclusion is by saying that everything else can't be the cause, so it must be a biological cause.
If there's no other historical kind of an issue that comes up. I mean, listen, we are born with a temperament. And you ask any parent out there, especially a parent who has multiple children, they'll say, one kid was a really easy baby, and they went on to become an easy grown-up, and they had that kid who was clenched up from the day they were born, and they were clenched up as adults. We do have temperaments, and there may be more vulnerable temperaments, which are believed to be biological in origin too. Until we can really unravel this, we're not going to know until, again, these behavioral patterns emerge. But what this also speaks to, though, is what we can do is hedge our bets. This means things like teaching people to parent, that sometimes under a lot of stress, parenting is hard. This is not meant at all to blame parents, but it's really about ensuring that we have supports in place for parents, whether that's daycare, whether that's parent training, whether that's pediatricians and other medical professionals that work with parents so they can be the best parent possible. We we put a lot of pressure on parents as individuals when really as communities we can be drawing together and supporting parents, especially parents who are in more vulnerable situations, high stress, job insecurity, other mental health issues. We should be supporting parents because that allows them to support kids.
We put a lot of pressure on them, and then no tools.
And no tools.
So that's one of the reasons that I love what we're doing here, because parents or anybody can go to medcircle.com, get on a free digest. It doesn't cost them any money, and start to get the lessons, the knowledge, the resource, the actionable steps to take to say, all right, maybe my kid's going through a phase, or maybe there's something more going on here, but either way, I'm going to do everything that I can to move forward.
Exactly. And the importance of creating very validating early environments for children at home, at school, that children need to hear day in and day out. You're okay. You're not just okay. You're terrific. Pay attention to them. However, you can do all of that. You can do all of that, and a person can still develop borderline personality disorder. So that's where this gets tricky.
And you know what?
Put a spell. I can't stand it. You're running around. Ow! Fuck! Holy shit! Owie! This thing smells like nasty old feet. Oh. Oh.
Does anyone need a purple helmet?
Okay.
Hi. How are you doing? Good. How about you? I'm great. Just chilling around a bit in this building. Cool. I just came from a party and wanted to spend some time without my friends. Then you're at the right spot. Want a drink? Sure. Can I have 2 vodka, please?
Oh, okay.
That will be 0.005 Ethereum. Where are you from? Sydney. Cool. I'm from Brooklyn. I had a great conversation with you. Me too. Can I add you as a friend? Sure. Shall we move this conversation to my place? It's busy in here. Sounds good. Send me your code and we can go. Not again, stupid Wi-Fi.
I can't wait for this new metaverse update coming out where you can play games like Call of Duty together in VR.
Cool. When are they adding it?
Tomorrow, I believe. By the way, have you already found me on the metaverse? I haven't received your friend request and heard that you are online a lot. It would be cool if we can grab a beer together soon and talk outside of this work environment.
Yeah. I'll add you when I'm online. I was very busy.
Okay, cool. I'm looking forward to seeing you online. We can play Call of Duty when it's added to the metaverse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, right now we're putting real life leads so you can do that too.
Hey, I knew you would be here. I just finished a 2-hour boxing session. Good to see you. I was waiting for you. I like your new glasses. Thanks. It's an NFT made by some artist from Australia. Cool. How much did it cost? I spent 0.8 Ethereum on it. Cool. You must have a lot of money.
Hi Wojak, I found your username VR Manager. Up for a match of Call of Duty? Or a beer?
Was that a friend of yours? A colleague. Why did you deny his friend request? Isn't it fun to meet with friends in the metaverse? I'd rather not. Would you like to play some Call of Duty with me? I'm sorry, I have a party with my friends in a few minutes. I was here to recover from that boxing session. A party? In which lobby? No, I mean a party in real life. I'm about to log off. Oh, okay. I sometimes forget there is also a world outside the metaverse. I'd rather be here. The offline world sucks. Well, as much fun as the metaverse is, I also love being with friends and doing actual things in the real world. This is also the real world. The offline world is just a place people were forced to live in before the metaverse. I'm pretty sure the offline world is the only real world. I mean, that's where we breathe, eat and feel things. There is no such thing as one real world. I think everybody can have their own perception of reality. So for you this is real life? Yes. The digital world is my real life. Out in the offline world there's not much for me to live for besides working. I don't want to work for the biggest part of my week only to lose all my money on rent and food. I mean, what exactly am I living for then? In this metaverse, I can actually enjoy my life and do anything I want when I want it. I can choose who I want to talk to. I can visit epic places and there are no laws. I can even fly if I want to. But isn't it lonely too? Most people here are just NPCs or gamers who you'll never see in real life. Shut up. You didn't get the point. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. I am just trying to discuss something with you. Sorry if I offended you. What's your username? FazePro32. Okay. /blockFazePro32. Are you serious?
Bye, bitch.
Spawn female blonde NPC number 126. Disable movement. Activate kindness and humor.
How was your day? I'm Sophia. Nice to meet you.
I had a rough day. I'm Wojak. Do you like my muscles?
Yes, I think you're very handsome. You must play a lot of Olympic Games.
No, I'm more of a Call of Duty type person.
How cool. We should totally play together one time.
Oh, that was very uncomfortable. Like, I know there's gotta be a way to get you to stop. Why do you suck shit? Oh no, they arrested him again?
I know, come on, you know you get stopped on Nazi. You're sick, you know that? Hey, don't resist. No, he's not resisting. Stand up. I'm not resisting. You are a Nazi, do it the Nazi style. Stand up. You're not, what? We want to stand up, but...
Hello, sir. Officer, you go elsewhere. Because you are obviously very close-minded and frustrated. Fucking this is retarded. You people are retarded. I'll subdue the fucking danger, right? Fucking elderly man. Pastor on top of that.
See, that's what's happening when you're living in China, da. You're going to be harassed by the Gestapo. The brown shirts of Adolf Hitler or Adolf Kenny. We got pulled over again, well, for the second time in just 20 minutes, believe it or not. Why? Because we dared to be willing to voice our opinion peacefully at the minister. There's a few cop cars. House. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I agree.
There's 2 cop cars I see.
You go and you fucking believe in it. Fuck, do whatever the fuck you want. You're gonna fucking literally. You're fucking.
If they'd have 2 just for.
Very much it's your right if you want to go ahead and get sick and die.
Well, one is.
Like, as much as it's for you to go fucking a bunch of men and getting a fucking STD and dying from it.
Driver's license, registration, insurance. Okay. Yep. That you're suspected of being in breach of some of your conditions there. Breach of conditions? Yeah. Do you have any conditions right now? What breach of conditions?
What? much?
You are David Pulaski, right? Yes. Yep. So you released, you had some conditions? You have conditions?
What conditions?
Where were
What
you
did I breach?
protesting?
What did I breach? What did I breach?
What did you breach?
What did I breach?
Right now we've got some fresh charges.
Fresh charges.
I'm going to step out of the vehicle and have a conversation.
What?
Fresh charges. You have fresh charges, eh?
From
There you
Step
go.
out of the vehicle, go that way.
Fresh charges, eh? Continuous. Gestapo SS. They're arresting him.
wow.
Is this what you do? You arrest preachers?
Scared the
You're a
shit out of all
bastard.
fucking four of them.
You took an oath.
Yeah, for brotherhood.
No
that's
better
just
than the
fucking
Nazis.
stupid. Yep.
I know. Come on. You
I
know you
know.
Gestapo Nazi. You're sick. You know that? You.
Hey, don't resist.
No, he's not resisting.
Stand up.
He's, no,
I'm not resisting.
You are a Nazi. Do it the Nazi style.
Stand up. You're not. What? We wanted to stand up, but you want to lay down.
Wow.
He did that himself.
Yeah, he did it to himself. Fucking-
Need a hand helping him up? We will.
Tell Neufeld he's a crook. He's a criminal. He's a Nazi.
Nowhere near here.
Yeah, you get your orders. Tell Neufeld he's sick. Corrupted mafia.
Yep.
No criminals to catch today, hey? Just
Ooh.
no, a pastor. Yeah?
Did you
He's
just
a criminal. Pastor. You know what his charges were?
did
You call that crime?
you, man? Like,
For opening church? Wow, yes, yeah. Wow. The state of our police.
yeah,
My
out of
God.
control. Like,
Public health orders and
Can I have your
public
name
health
and
orders.
badge
Why?
numbers, please?
You know what? You guys are fucking.
Name and badge number. Excuse me, I'm talking to you.
Constable Johnson, 5742.
You, badge number.
Are you 4659? You're going to be obstructing this.
I'm not obstructing anything.
That's why I told you to back away.
Name and badge number.
More, 4404.
Bro, come on now. You know what you're doing is fucking wrong. Come on.
My God, you
Keep you out of jail, okay?
yeah, sure you do. You would love to arrest me as well, you
Why?
Nazi.
Why?
Because you're sick.
No.
This
No.
is sick. You get orders
No.
from corrupted politicians, corrupted leaders, and this is what you do.
Yeah, well, they still get their pensions at the end of the year.
You got options.
All property. Somewhere in that, maybe, but it's not my fucking prerogative. So.
Knowing the number of COVID-19 cases is something that has helped us keep track as to how things are going throughout this pandemic. Schools is one of many places where it's been beneficial. But now the province isn't going to be collecting case numbers from schools or childcare settings. Some medical experts and critics say this is concerning.
Parents want to know whether there are a high number of positive COVID cases in schools before they send their children. And so the decision now to not report COVID cases in schools is a bit, worrying for the parents who can't decide whether that day is safe for them to send their children or not.
The Ministry of Education sent a memo to provincial school boards just hours before New Year's Eve. It says in part, the ministry is suspending reporting of COVID cases in schools. The contact and outbreak management approach is being updated across all sectors as directed by the Chief Medical Officer of Health to balance individual risk and disruption to society. Health policy expert Dr. Ahmed Faraz Khalid says while the province is shifting focus to keeping track of how many people are in the ICU and hospitals, this move isn't a good one. It's a bit ill-advised not to report COVID-19 cases because it gives us a measure of how bad the outbreaks are and whether we need to have more aggressive approaches if there are massive outbreaks in schools. Epidemiologist Colin Furness says without this data, we will now be sitting in the dark.
We are in the midst of an enormous wave where we can no longer count cases, and that's difficult. So I think I understand your logic. The problem with that is that we have no yardstick for safety in schools.
Opposition parties are calling on the Ford government to reverse its decision for both childcare settings and schools. And when it comes to childcare centers, we're talking about kids who right now cannot be vaccinated, kids who cannot wear or keep masks on. And so to go as far as to stop testing and reporting outbreaks is taking away the little protection that there is for little kids. Furness says currently only 50% of primary school kids are vaccinated, and that's a problem. With the absence of case counts in schools, people will need to keep a close eye on vaccination rates.
We think we can avoid serious COVID most of the time when we vaccinate our kids. So we should be looking at the vaccination rates. If we can get vaccination close to 100%, then we could say we've got a pretty resilient student body with respect to community immunity.
The provincial memo sent to schools also stated that they will be sending details shortly on reporting expectations of absences in schools and school closures due to COVID-19. Lots of changes to keep track of when school resumes on January 5th. For City News, I'm Maliha Sheikh.
Meanwhile, Europe continues to remain one of the worst hit regions due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The number of COVID-19 infections and also deaths that have been reported has witnessed a sharp surge. Eastern Europe has now reported a very grim record of breaching 1 million COVID-19 deaths. This is the Omicron variant is threatening to batter the region further. Our next report gets you all the details.
Coronavirus deaths in Eastern Europe topped 1 million on Thursday as the Omicron variant threatened to batter the region. The figures come from a Reuters tally, which also showed that 3 out of 5 countries reporting the highest number of daily deaths in Europe are from the East. They include Russia, Poland, and Ukraine. The tally also shows that although Eastern Europe makes up 39% of the region's population, it has reported more than half the total COVID-related deaths in Europe. Relatively few cases of Omicron have been detected in Eastern Europe compared with Western Europe so far, though, where daily cases have broken records. Poland reported record high numbers of deaths in its 4th wave of the pandemic on Wednesday, though the figure may have been inflated by delayed reporting due to Christmas. Warsaw office worker Marzena Lesniewska believes restrictions should only apply to the unvaccinated.
We need to talk about our society as a whole. It's not just a matter of my own choice. I got vaccinated not just because I want to avoid getting seriously ill, but also in order to limit the transmission of the virus to other people. It's not just my freedom, but the freedom of the whole society that should be taken into consideration.
A spokesperson for the College of Family Physicians in Poland has blamed the rising toll on an overloaded healthcare system, a lack of knowledge, and a reluctance to get vaccinated compared to the West, including for the most vulnerable groups. Russia has now overtaken Brazil to have the world's 2nd highest death toll globally from the pandemic. It's now only behind the United States. Data from Russia's State Statistics Service showed on Thursday. The Czech Republic and Hungary top Eastern Europe's vaccination rates. Nearly 64% of both countries' populations have received at least one shot. Ukraine has the lowest rate, with nearly 33% of its residents receiving a single dose, according to Our World in Data.
Beyond is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.
Tonight,
New Year's travel chaos at airports as millions try to get home from the holiday. More than 2,500 flights canceled today, thousands more delayed. Airlines hit with a 1-2 punch of staffing shortages due to COVID and extreme weather across the country, from snow to thunderstorms, even flooding. 3 people now missing and feared dead after the most destructive wildfires in Colorado history. Nearly 1,000 homes destroyed.
I didn't know if I was going to even make it.
The record surge in COVID cases, so many calling in sick, it's impacting critical services. 20% of the NYPD out. Some school districts going back to remote. Others mandating all students get tested. Is there a light at the end of the tunnel? The new science of Omicron that some experts hope may bring an end to the pandemic sooner.
Oh, yeah? Bring an end to the pandemic when you're fucking putting curfews in here? Like, makes a lot of sense to me. So I guess we're just gonna go from curfew to fucking no restrictions whatsoever, and everybody fucking pack into the Bell Center again. Fuck that. You guys are fucking stupid. Ow. Ow.
Hi, I'm Mayor Heavyhand, he, him, and me and the rest of the Liberal mayors from all over the country could be more proud of how we've been leading our cities these past couple of years. It's no exaggeration to say we've transformed our cities, but being a Liberal mayor isn't without its challenges and critics, all of whom are racist. I'm proud to say our homeless population is now greater than our housed population. And I'll talk about how we've achieved this feat. But first, something we're equally as proud of. You see, crimes like shoplifting were on the rise. So as the mayor, I stopped prosecuting shoplifters, basically legalized stealing. Yes, please tell Mr. Soros, I think that's a great idea, and I really appreciate his campaign support. It's like reverse psychology. By telling people they're allowed to do crime, it makes them not want to do crime. You gotta learn how to think like a mayor. But in spite of this crime-fighting plan being 100% effective, Crime is still escalating for some reason. For all the retail stores that are still complaining about all their merchandise being stolen and nothing's being done about it, it's their fault for having products on display that make people want to steal. I mean, what do these people want from me? Help? No. Them asking me for help is the same thing as them inflicting violence on me. No. Democratic socialism is different. Really, the only explanation for people being passionately against my mandates is the rise in transphobia. This week's biggest fire to put out, my office has been flooded with calls of people complaining about the school district. And quite frankly, I've been appalled to find out that our school districts have been teaching dangerous and outdated ideologies, like promoting the idea that heterosexual marriage is okay. Defunding the police is the first thing I did when I stepped into office. Police are proven to be dangerous, and we do not need them. Y'all need private security to escort me for my walk home tonight? Thanks. I mean, we discovered that police were at the scene of almost every crime. So the correlation between police and crime was just too high for me and my team to think about any further. We are better off without police because now is the time for racial unity. I sincerely despise white people, and I will no longer be doing any interviews with white reporters. Those people are just filled with hate. I mean, for me, I just coincidentally live in an all-white neighborhood. I mean, wish I didn't have to, but it's just where I intentionally bought my house, so big misunderstanding. Our city is facing soaring murder rates. I don't know why, but I do know we won't be for long. Because now that I've cut the police budget by $119 million, that money has been freed up. So I'm proud to announce that we will be stopping the escalating murder rate by spending that $119 million building more parks around the city. It's a very progressive plan, but I have an extremely well-qualified team of advisors because they're very diverse. Say no more, you're hired because you're Asian. I need one of you people on my squad. And what we speculate is when given the option, potential killers will want to relax in a beautiful park instead of going out murdering. Fighting crime with disc golf doesn't hurt anyone, but fighting crime with a police department, that hurts everyone. And small business owners are asking me all the time, are lockdowns still necessary?
Yeah.
Yes, we're right at the beginning of a pandemic here, people. We're just getting started. And this thing is serious. Our projections are that anyone who will ever die will die from this disease. And anyone who has ever died from anything throughout history has died from this disease. Because if you look at the science, death is a symptom of this disease, and all dead people have experienced death. So it looks like this disease has been around a lot longer than we thought. My very non-white, non-binary chief of staff came up with these projections, so they'll ring true to you, unless you're a racist. 60% of our city's small businesses went out of business during our 2-year lockdown. So what's our solution for helping the small businesses that are barely still alive?
Take them back from
more lockdowns. My trans chief science advisor is determined that the reason why so many businesses shut down is because the owners were dying from this disease. So more lockdowns are the only solution we can possibly think of to help small businesses survive. We're all in this together. Ooh, case rates are up. Cut off the water supply. In response to the pandemic, I've instituted vax mandates around our city for all workers, patrons, stray dogs, and sewer rats. Basically, all forms of life that are superior to the unvaxxed. I mean, with our hospitals so overwhelmed, which you can clearly see based on these stock photos from Italy that we're using, firing a large portion of our nurses, doctors, and first responders for being non-compliant, it's going to be the best way to get ahead of this thing.
What about Republican-run places like Florida where people are happy, healthy, and free?
Oh, for the crazy people who still believe in misinformation like Florida exists, freedom is dangerous. Like, this isn't about you. Just follow the science. My team of gender fluid critical race theory experts have put together some exciting numbers that show within 30 to 85 years of being happy, 90% of people are dead, which shows just how deadly happiness is. It's not safe, and it's not something I'm going to stand for in my city. Voters shouldn't have the right to determine how they want to live their lives. It's too dangerous for that right now. But after one more mandate, just this next one, and then another 2 weeks to slow the spread, then it'll be safe for things to go back to normal. Promise. There's no one we support more than BLM. I can tell you this right now. Watching portions of my city burn, it is great for inclusivity. It's like you're watching systemic racism burn away. I'm proud to say in my city, 70% of Black people are not allowed to eat inside at restaurants.
Shit.
Because that's a percentage, not jabbed. I'll tell you this, BLM kind of put us in a pickle when they announced they're against jab mandates. But luckily, as a public official, the social credit score you get for going along with the mandate portion of the Great Reset has proved to be greater than the social credit score you get for pretending you care about Black people. So, problem solved.
So there's massive protests outside against your mandates.
Huh. Looks like those people are fueled by hate and fear. Can you run that as a headline? I want to see Planned Parenthood set up around the city like fast food restaurants. Oh, I'm Mr. Pro-Choice. In fact, the reason why I divorced my ex-wife is because she refused to get an abortion. Yeah, she was so against it, saying things like, I can't get one. He's 3 years old. But really it's because she doesn't think women should have a right to choose what they do to their bodies. And while I'm not gay per se, I then married a man, as I thought, wow, a willingness to do so would be a powerful statement of diversity and inclusion. Doing the right thing for the wrong reasons is the right thing to do. My husband is a half Asian, half Black, half whatever Elizabeth Warren is, trans woman. He's like a Swiss Army knife of diversity. Really a grand slam for optics. I love watching Beetlejuice. I thought Mayor Lori Lightfoot was excellent in it. I'm a big fan of hers. And now that our homeless population has exceeded the population of people living in actual homes, I can't believe I still get calls from our Republican governors saying, what are you going to do about your homeless problem? We don't have a homeless problem. No, my only problem is with the word homeless. It's stigmatizing. I think you mean to say people currently identifying as experiencing homelessness. And no, we don't have a problem with them. Allowing such persons to do whatever they want on public land, including claiming it as their own, is the right thing to do. Can you ask Janice to clean my shoes for me? When I was walking in this morning, I sidestepped a pile of human feces, which then had me accidentally step in another pile of human feces in my attempt to avoid the first pile. Both shoes. Some complain about the pens, trash, excrement, and hypodermic needles that are all around the encampments. And I get it. That's why I just signed an order assigning a personal maid service to each tent. And I also approved funding for weekly massages and essential oil therapy for all persons currently identifying as experiencing homelessness. If we melt away their stress through regular massage therapy and essential oil treatments, then they're not going to want to use drugs to escape anymore, are they? Problem solved.
How are you going to fund all of this?
Well, I recently defunded the fire department because I found out they were trying to put out burning buildings that BLM lit on fire. And I'm like, it is not okay to extinguish racial unity. So we'll be diverting the funds from the racist fire department to our homeless hospitality and relaxation program. Because I think it's important to make progress. Since implementing never-ending 2-week lockdowns, our economy has never been better. I mean, as you can clearly see through our statistics. And don't fall for that conservative misinformation that tries to get you to think that the economic growth of a city should be measured by money. No, we measure our economic growth correctly by inclusivity and diversity. 11,000 people have left this month alone? Why would so many people want to move out of my city? That doesn't make any sense. Those numbers are racist. Real quick, my friend, I don't want to leave our connection in the hands of big tech who are getting very deplatform happy nowadays. So I'd love to have you join my Awaken Warrior newsletter list. I'll send you an email once or twice a week, give you some behind the scenes info. You'll be the first to know when I release videos. But more importantly, it ensures you and I stay connected. Just go to awakenwithjp.com/join me. I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Primal Life Organics, and their LED light teeth whitening system. Here's the cool thing. Unlike most teeth whitening systems that use harmful peroxides, which can actually damage and denature your teeth while they're whitening your teeth, Primal Life Organics chooses the natural route. Primal Life Organics takes the higher road, utilizing an LED light mouthpiece along with food-grade teeth whitening gel. Blue light for whitening your teeth, red light for reducing inflammation, and both for doing both. Personally, I like to have white teeth as a part of how I present myself, but my problem's been finding a product that doesn't contain harmful things that I don't want to put into my body. But Primal Life Organics solves that problem. If you're a healthy-minded person, not only does it uphold your values because everything's natural, but it's very effective too at whitening your teeth. 16 minutes a day, 3 days a week helps keep the ugly away. If you want to join me in upgrading your smile by whitening your teeth with Primal Life Organics, just go to naturalteethwhiteners.com/JP. And when you use my link, you get a full 60% off your teeth whitening kit.
Off. Oh. Oh, fuck. Okay. Oh. No. Come on, get the fuck in. Ow. Ow. Yeah.
It is time for us to adopt a new company brand to encompass everything that we do. I am proud to announce our company is now Meta.
Hi there, peasant. Here at Facebook, we've been working on an exciting project that'll change how you live your life. The metaverse. It'll be a fully immersive virtual and augmented reality that enriches you by completely taking over your mind and life. Now, the metaverse isn't what you think. It's better than you can think. So let me explain what the metaverse is and all the benefits it'll give you. But first, have you ever thought, instead of living a productive life with meaning, I'd like to live an unproductive pretend life with pretend meaning? The metaverse takes you there.
I think this could be very positive for our society and economy.
Positive indeed, Mark. Up until now. If you've liked how Facebook has controlled your online experience with our algorithms that have proven to be harmful, addictive, and divisive, then you'll love handing Facebook control of your entire life. Have you ever watched The Matrix and wondered, how'd the bad guys get those people into the pods and plugged into the Matrix in the first place? Well, your question will be answered as you're plugging yourself into the metaverse. Why would you want to dedicate your life to building success for yourself when you could sacrifice your life and help build success for a giant company that you trust with dangerous business practices?
Privacy and safety need to be built into the metaverse from day one.
That's right, Mark. But some Facebook skeptics have had concerns about our privacy violations. But we're proud to say we've solved all those concerns with the metaverse, as it completely eliminates privacy. Sit back and just imagine what it'll be like to never have to use your imagination again, as the metaverse does all your imagining for you. With regular Facebook, the product we sell is you. But wouldn't you like to go from just being a product to being enslaved? The metaverse is your answer. With the metaverse, you'll never have to worry about censorship again, because plugging in frees your mind to be controlled into eliminating all thoughts that are not approved by our propaganda quality control team. Have my mind controlled by someone who's regularly subpoenaed to testify before the Senate because of dangerous and dishonest business practices? Yes, please.
We're a company that focuses on connecting people.
Of course we are. That's why we're trying to convince you to go from having human connection in your life to having the illusion of human connection in the metaverse. We literally don't care about people. Sometimes life can be challenging and uncomfortable, but the metaverse gives you the courage to avoid those challenging things by taking the easy way out. You become a much stronger source of profit for us by avoiding things that are hard. Did you know you're not one of society's elites? So why would you want to bother living your own garbage life when you can plug into the metaverse and be manipulated into believing that you're someone important? Talk about a high-class lifestyle. If elite billionaires that regularly get in trouble for putting profits ahead of people are offering you to live your life on their product, but they themselves just build the product rather than living their lives on it, then you know it's in your best interest to be on their product. Unless you're crazy. One of the most boring aspects of life is life. That's why we created the metaverse, to help you escape life. Pretending to live life is way better than living life. Who wants to work hard and go through the struggles of trying to have a good life when you could just easily have the life of your dreams without having to work for it? Kind of like how what's way more satisfying than earning a first place trophy is buying a first place trophy. If you spend all your time and energy building your life in the metaverse instead of the actual world you live in, then you'll be completely dependent on Facebook, and therefore you'll have the luxury of being controlled by us. And doesn't that seem both better and safer than being in control of your own life? It's like communism with technology.
But now we have a new North Star to help bring the metaverse to life.
And it'll be at the expense of your life. But don't worry, because unlike heroin, where you have to live with the consequences of a life-destroying addiction, in the metaverse, you'll be completely unaware of the life-destroying consequences of this addiction. Spending your money to build up your world in the metaverse is kind of like building a mansion on someone else's property. You might not own it, but at least you paid for it. Now, I know you can't wait to get on, but the metaverse isn't available quite yet. You'll need to stay tuned for updates as to when you can jump into the quicksand with us. Because once you're on, you won't need to build a happy, successful life. And the metaverse lets you think you're building a happy, successful life. Thank you for watching, my friend. This video is brought to you by Zion. Now, if you want to go deeper into the big tech paradigm, then please join the metaverse. But I think a lot of us are saying, well, that's an old paradigm that not only do we not want to go deeper into, we want to get out of and go to a new paradigm, a paradigm where we're not being used by tech companies for profit, but rather tech companies are of service to us. And the new paradigm that I know a lot of us are craving is one that is censorship free, that gives sovereignty and control over your online experience to you. In short, it's an online experience with trust and civility. Now, here's the problem. A lot of companies have come up pledging to be censorship
free? Yeah, okay. Not.
This message is for the swell people running President Biden. Hi, guys.
Yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas as well. Merry Christmas, and let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon. I agree.
You heard it here, folks. President Biden agrees. Let's go, Brandon. And if you quickly remind yourself of what let's go, Brandon means, then you'll realize Biden was clearly telling himself to go himself on live television while having no idea he was doing it. Let's break it down in this special report. President Biden took a break from ignoring the Americans that are still left behind in Afghanistan to prioritize tracking Santa across the sky on NORAD's Santa Tracker program. With President Brandon talking to callers on live television, what could go wrong?
Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon. I agree.
Well, I guess nothing could have gone more wrong for the people running Biden, who are still trying to pass him off as a functional person who's running the country. As there are record numbers of people who disagree with things that Biden has said over the past year, this is the first thing he said that the entire country can wholeheartedly agree on. Let's take a look at what happened.
Yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas as well. Merry Christmas, and let's go, Brandon.
This man is a legend. Now, with this man, there's a certain level of what some would call an astonishing level of cluelessness shining through this very impaired man. Others would say there's an astonishing level of leadership and racial unity shining through this man who gave the eulogy at the funeral of a KKK leader. But a little backstory. The job performance of the most popular president in history, who also has the lowest approval rating in history, has generated a new national pastime in the nation full of people who love him so much, whereby at sporting events, entire stadiums full of people break out into a chant saying, Joe Biden. And then in response, the media's very journalistic attempt to cover up how hated the president is suggested that people are chanting, let's go Brandon.
As you can hear the chants from the crowd. Let's go, Brandon.
To that, the nation that Biden sold out to pharmaceutical companies responded by creating an even newer national pastime, this time chanting, let's go, Brandon. It even happens at all my live shows, every single one of them. People love it. What can we deduce from Biden's performance on TV? Well, we can't conclude that he's never been informed about this phrase that every person in the country knows about, but we can conclude that if he has been told about it, he doesn't remember being told about it. And while President Brandon didn't have a clue what was happening, you know who did have a clue? His wife. I don't even know what her name is, and I don't care either. But JP, that's disrespectful. Indeed. I don't respect people who disrespect the Constitution. Take a look at what's-his-face's wife's face when she witnesses him promptly agree that he should go himself. Her face went from happy to look of horror in 0.02 seconds. And it shows she's not detached from reality. She's simply just an accomplice to what the people that run Biden are trying to do. Contrast her look of horror with President Brandon. Hers is the appropriate response. But at least he's having a good time and is the one with the nuclear launch codes. Next, let's watch what happens when President Brandon is shockingly unaware that the caller had hung up while he's trying to figure out where the caller lives.
Let's go, Brandon. I agree. Hey, by the way, where are you in Oregon? Where's your home?
Head hung in shame. Well, I'm no body language expert. Thank you for your honesty in expressing how you truly feel in this moment through your body language, Mrs. Brandon. Let's continue.
I think we lost him.
Yeah.
And she said, yeah. She sounds pretty defeated, doesn't she?
I think we lost him.
I think we lost you, Joe. But it's not all fun and games. During this Christmas miracle, can you imagine the stress levels of the people that run Biden? There's nothing funny about that. They're offset, freaking out, their blood pressure is going through the roof, and they're always worried that Biden's going to reveal their whole plan. There is nothing funny about that level of human suffering. But some speculate that the hooded people with control over Biden were negligent, as they know that their guy doesn't read off teleprompters very well.
Things have begun to change. And the quote
But they also know he does even worse with no teleprompter. And they put themselves at risk of him revealing their whole plan each time they have him talk without a teleprompter. But in this case, they amplified their negligence by allowing him to take live calls. As a person who cares about this country, I believe someone needs to be held accountable for this negligence and added to the Clinton body count. Scholars in the field of propaganda and public deception have concluded that next time they should use a fake caller to call in. It'll be more controllable. It would go really well with their fake White House set with their fake windows and their fake snow falling outside.
Let's go, Brandon. I agree.
What happens when embarrassment is born out of the truth of reality simply being revealed? Well, this administration continually shows us. And the answer is America laughs at you. And to the president and the people who control him, probably with incriminating photos, the nation's not laughing at your expense. They're laughing at the expense of your feeble attempts to hide the truth. They're not very good because, unfortunately, the public isn't as dumb as you are deceptive. Well, some of the public's not, anyway. In conclusion, this man, Jared Schmeck, is a legend, Mrs. Brandon is embarrassed, and the president has an important message for you.
Let's go, Brandon.
He knows what's best. After all, he's the president. And if he says, let's go, Brandon, then you should agree with him. Because after all, you shouldn't be thinking for yourself and questioning what he says. Should you, liberals? Because doing so would not only make you less obedient, it would imply that you think President Biden didn't know what he was saying, which would then imply that you think President Biden is cognitively impaired enough that he's not in touch.
Bored. Did I mute? No, I didn't. Okay, good. I would love to go outside. However, I will get fined if I leave my home. Not because I have a criminal record. And just because I live somewhere where everything has to be backwards. For no reason. You guys are fucking nuts. Like, honestly. These people are fucking actually crazy. Just talking about fucking yogurt tubes. I need a glove. Oh, I thought it was up there, but I did not. Fuck. I swear to God, I'm like shit for brains. Yes, definitely. Oh, I fucked it up. Okay. This is gonna fucking watch out. Order. Oh God, I love that guy. My little itty bitty easel. I know I had a little pot around here somewhere. Hey, my little pot. Oh. Dow, yay. Someone needs to fucking do something about fucking our government. This is retarded. Right. And fucking the rest of Canada actually puts a lock on their booze and doesn't push pot on people. Because you guys weren't supposed to be allowed to advertise your pot, but you're still doing it. I just don't get it. You guys fucking ruin pot. You fucking literally conquer the entire business. Hey, we're losing a lot of money on not fucking selling pot and taxing the shit out of people. Fucking man kind of loves their taxes. What's that movie, the Robin Hood movie, but with all the animals? Ah, shit. Yeah, I know, you're fucking... What's up, Ryan? Awesome. Joe Pesci? Hey! It was an accident. Be nice. Are you bullying my dog? What the hell happened?
I think she jumped on him and he chased her.
It was an accident, I'm sure. Are you still with your friend? I don't care about your fucking children.
The
It
Joe
looks like they have
Rogan
autism.
experience. What are we gonna do?
What?
What's if you, from your perspective, as a producer of a podcast that gets seen by millions of people, when you're looking at things all the time, you're paying attention to trends, you're looking at online activity, metaverse bullshit, all this stuff. Where are we going?
Where are we going?
Something's happening, right? Civilization is clearly at a tipping point, right?
I could be cynical on that and go, maybe. Because those days I don't look at my phone, you forget stuff that's going wild.
For sure. But eventually it's going to affect you. Like the way you pay your bills, whether or not you get credit, it's going to affect you, right? If they institute some sort of a social credit system, it's going to affect you. Are you worried about that at all?
Yeah, I heard someone talk about something like that over the weekend.
What they say?
Like a global credit score of some kind or something like that.
Did you see we talked about the Yahoo article, right? Where they said that they were going to base it in some part on your browser history.
Cold, eh?
Oh, they talked about it,
Yeah, where the idea was they were floating it out there that your browser history might make you available for more credit. So the idea would be that if you gave up all the shit you looked up,
scary fog.
they would allow you to have more credit because they know,
And
hey,
it was
well, he's not
dead silence.
Googling
Like, you know how
bulletproof
usually,
vests or fucking
you have the door open.
Freeze-dried food.
If they did that, though, people would just make burner accounts to look online. Instantly.
But it was like
Yeah, but if they track your fucking device, like who knows what kind of ability they have to actually track your phone or your laptop, right? Like if Edward Snowden didn't tell us about their ability to essentially like mass store every fucking phone call and email you've ever made, if Edward Snowden didn't tell us about what the NSA was cooking up, we would have never guessed it.
I can't believe it though.
So who knows what the fuck is going on right now?
Like you
should assume that everything you say is constantly being monitored and recorded. Whether you're saying it on a phone, off a phone. Oh, look, it's Suzanne. She's back.
Like Will Harris shared a post today about a guy who spent the week at his mom's house and is now getting advertisements for his mother's toothpaste.
Oh my God.
And they never talked about it, but it explained why that's happening.
Well, your phone's listening.
No, it has nothing to do with that. It's like it knows everything you've bought because of all of the terms and conditions you've done. So like it's checking your email and all of that stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. That
and
too.
then linking that with, like I sort of said this like a week or two ago, it'll have your phone's social security number, if you will. It's like a mobile ID number. It's the EIN and all that kind of stuff. It's linking that with GPS data. So it'll know like me and you and Suzanne are all with each other.
Right.
So she'll start getting advertisements for stuff you're buying, thinking and hoping that you might see an advertisement.
I'm kidding.
That's what I want. Like Suzanne will see an ad you missed. Like, hey Joe, did you see this thing? I bet you would love this.
Well, what about when you talk about something and then you get an ad for that something that you've never seen an ad for before?
It could be. It
right now,
could have known that you were watching TV because it's coming through a streaming service now, and it knows you would have seen the ad.
Guy who was like, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care.
Distributing it to you.
Like the only reason why I know about it is I've seen an ad.
The guy who runs that
I've been
place is
using
actually
YouTube
really
TV
cool.
for
He was like,
2 or
I'm
3
not
years now,
doing what.
and I recently watched. I don't
And they
remember
said,
the reason
you're
why,
in
but like
trouble. Yeah,
over the
whatever.
air,
On the fucking mail.
like over the antenna. The advertisements are so different, and you don't even realize it.
Right, but I have had conversations with you, or with a lot of people, where I'm talking about something, and then all of a sudden I get an ad for that thing in like Google Ads.
I also think there's a lot of it's how many ads do you get all day that doesn't happen to, and they're like, oh shit, I mentioned that thing yesterday.
And also, when you mention it, are you mentioning it because it's in the public zeitgeist?
Like,
and
why
then,
did you say it?
Right, and then it gets out there. That's possible too. Like, but that's the thing is like you have to be like really honest about what's the source of whatever the fuck it is. And the problem is people get really tribal. And when they get really tribal, they don't want to admit that maybe they don't totally understand what's happening. Like, is my phone listening to me? Fuck, it might be. It seems like it is.
Definitely.
It might be. And why wouldn't it be? They definitely have the technology. Like, if they know, if Suzanne Santos talking some shit, they can just listen to that bitch's phone all day long. They know, right? They know they can do that. If Joe Rogan is saying something stupid, they can check his phone. They know, you know they can. I know they can. We all know they can. So if that's the case, like, well, how are they doing that? And are they using that technology all the time? Like, why would you just use it on potential criminals or enemies of the state or what have you? Well, you could use it on the entire fucking population and make trillions of dollars in advertiser revenue. Like, wouldn't you do that? What are you, stupid? Use it on everybody. Hey, guys, we just get metadata. We don't even know who it is. We're going to send the ads to their phones. We give you a little piece, a little taste.
It's also
when you
obviously it's just ads. Why are ads? We know better, at least to some extent.
I don't
fall for ads.
See, I don't.
Well, some of them you do.
I buy coolers I don't need. I'm like, I want a blue Yeti. It looks so good. I'm a moron.
That's when I've tapped into something.
I'll take your
that you're
excess
looking at.
coolers.
I have a cooler.
You move.
There's a bunch of ads you don't fall for. You know,
Yes.
Also, we
feminine
sign up
products.
for
I
it.
saw a cock ring. They're selling cock rings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we sign up for that stuff. Like when you sign your cell phone thing, there's all kinds of bullshit in there.
Well, nobody reads terms and agreements. And when was the last time you read terms and agreements for anything?
I think it's a very rare breed that ever takes the
I
time
know,
for that.
because she was in there eating it. I wish that were fucking true. Man, if I fucking wanted to yell for the sake of fucking yelling, wouldn't that be great?
here we are. We're back on the COVID coaster in many ways.
The future of education in Alberta, once again, up in the air. So parents are breaking out the at-home learning tools once again until at least January the 10th. So return to school has been delayed, but what next? That answer, not available at the moment.
We're on a path that we're not sure where we're going to end up. And I think that's really hard on parents right now.
And those on the front lines of keeping schools safe, playing catch-up as well.
Unfortunately, the Minister of Education has chosen not to engage meaningfully with teachers, and the association was not consulted on the announcement made yesterday.
Schilling saying questions around filtration, staffing issues, testing metrics, and pretty much everything else have yet to be answered.
We need to see something that is standardized and that applies across the province right now, especially as we deal with this variant of concern.
The delay, though, is welcome to hopefully allow these issues to be addressed.
Giving school divisions the most amount of time and parents the most amount of time as possible to sort of plan and think ahead, I think is critical.
But despite planning, the spread of Omicron may eventually need to result in a return to online learning.
I worry and I'm frustrated, and I predict the fact that that'll potentially happen this year as well.
But this will be a decision made by the province, and one that Esther Brooks hopes won't be up to educators to figure out.
This is an incredibly challenging and stressful time for our educators. They need to focus on educating kids, not on collecting data for testing and figuring out sort of that notification and the tracing process.
In Edmonton, Jonas Gilbert, City News.
I thought this was like a collaborative effort, though. No? Maybe not. Yeah. Fuck.
Hi, At Issue panel. Hello. My question for the At Issue panel is...
I want to end 2021 on a high note, and so my question for the At Issue panelists is this.
My question for the At Issue panel is... I have two questions for the At Issue panel today.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to a special edition of At Issue. It's my favorite edition because I don't have to do very much. It's your chance to ask your political questions about some of the biggest moments of the year and what you want to know about what's to come in politics. Here with me for one last time in 2021, Chantal Hébert, Andrew Coyne, Althea Raj, and Elamine Abdul Mahmoud. Okay, let's get right to our first favorite question. It is a policy question, which I just love. Here's Caitlin.
I want to end 2021 on a high note, and so my question for the At Issue panelists is this. What policy decision of 2021 at any level of government do you think will have the most positive long-term impact on Canadians? Thanks, and Happy New Year.
That was a
Great
very
question,
shit
Caitlin.
question.
Chantal, why don't you take a go at that one?
I'm going to go for the childcare, affordable childcare outside of the province of Quebec, because I've seen its impact in this province and on labor force issues for families, on work-life balance, and I believe that policy, the way it is framed, and with most provinces already on side with agreements, is probably one that will not be cancelled if we change governments, because it will be very hard to cancel.
Andrew.
Carbon pricing. This is an issue that's going to be with us for decades to come. I only wish that the government was placing a greater emphasis on it. It's in fact only using carbon pricing to achieve about a third of its emissions reductions.
just like not palatable.
On this Saturday night, the range of responses to the rapid spread of Omicron. From shorter isolation to booster shots coming sooner.
Shorter incubation period means that people are infectious earlier.
To what?
Why one province isn't reimposing restrictions. Plus, scaled back New Year's celebrations in the U.S. as COVID-19 cases surge.
Our hospitals are at roughly the same numbers they were on the worst day of last winter.
And residents return home to ruins after a ferocious Colorado wildfire forces tens of thousands to flee. Good evening and thanks for joining us. Canadians are starting off the new year on a high that no one wanted. Record COVID-19 case numbers are still being seen across the country, prompting several provinces to tighten restrictions and extend the winter break. But there is the growing consensus the Omicron variant causes milder illnesses with a shorter incubation period. While more Canadians are getting infected, the isolation period for some is getting shorter. Ross Lord has our top story tonight.
With the number of new COVID-19 cases reaching record highs every day, even those leading Canada's response are feeling the impact. The latest to be infected, New Brunswick Premier Blaine Higgs, despite being fully vaccinated, including a booster shot.
Several days ago, I came down with a cold, what seemed to be cold symptoms in any way. Wednesday morning, I did the test, and it came back positive.
Confronting an exploding case count, New Brunswick is postponing non-urgent surgeries. It's also reducing isolation periods to 5 days, joining a growing list of other provinces, including British Columbia.
What we're seeing with Omicron is that shorter incubation period means that people are infectious earlier, from 1 to 2 days before their symptoms start, and that the illness tends to resolve more quickly.
Other movements gaining momentum, fast-tracking booster shots, and making healthcare workers and the most vulnerable the priority for PCR tests, now that the virus has overwhelmed testing capacity.
So use the capacity you have in the smartest possible manner and focus it on areas that you need it the most.
I can't. Shut up. Just like, that's 2 hours ago. Not a fucking word about Quebec. Fucking. Ah. Two days ago, Montreal Gazette. One day, you know what?
Good evening, everyone.
Our news only comes every 2 days.
That there's a risk that we won't be
Shut your fucking dumb fat fucking face. Fuck, you're so stupid. Fucking idiot. Fucking have a death wish. I'm fucking killing people. Let you sit in your fucking $4 million fucking Victorian home. That's just a little bit too big for your liking. Wow. I told 7 videos that are all not related. Get yeah, okay. I don't know why you guys always have to fucking do everything the hard way. You have to make me fucking actually look. Let's see, Pelosi. Yep. Diets. Oh my god.
The vaccine policy by Luther Care is supposed to apparently be for everyone's safety. And so they've got something like 90% of everybody in the building is vaccinated, but yet they still think that everyone should be vaccinated.
I feel like I'm a leper, and I'm sure a lot of people that aren't vaccinated maybe think that way. That is not right at all. To segregate people into one area and another area because you're vaccinated or not vaccinated.
They've discriminated against people like my mom, and they're basically saying, okay, you can't do this and you can't do that. You can't go to all these places. We're going to quarantine you in your suite. We're going to deliver the food to your suite. You're not allowed to associate with anybody. My goodness, she's 90 years old, and this is the way they want to treat my mother.
I would rather die than be vaccinated because I've never had a vaccine in my life. I'm not going to start at my age.
Thank you.
It is well known that senior citizens are often the hardest hit by COVID-19. And I'm certain that the common phrase, if you don't comply with insert policy here, you might kill grandma or somebody else's grandma, is still ringing in your ears.
Why should they take the vaccine? Maybe you'll be fine, or maybe you go home and kiss your grandmother and wind up killing your grandma. Show some civic responsibility.
Over the last 2 months, I've been following the story of a Saskatoon grandma, 90-year-old Violet Casper, a widow, a retired organic farmer, and a senior citizen with a very different view than the mainstream on how we are handling COVID-19. Violet recently chose not to disclose her vaccination status to her seniors' home, the village at Stonebridge, which is part of a much larger company called Luther Care. This has resulted in quite the back and forth of events since then. Violet's family stands behind her, and this includes her loving son, Nicholas Casper. As a side note, Nicholas is a congregant of Grace Life Church, the church who stood up adamantly against government mandates in Alberta. Nicholas refuses to let anyone bully his dear mama and feels strongly that somebody needs to stand up for the forgotten seniors across our nation, being negatively affected by these policies, and who are often vulnerable and unable to stand up for themselves. He and Violet truly believe that this has gone too far. So they are holding the line and not accepting any compromise that cannot be proven by Luther Care to be scientifically and ethically sound. Now, I did try to reach out to Luther Care because, of course, Rebel always tries to get both sides of the story.
Yeah, I know.
However, my emails to both Gabe Lafond, the CEO of Luther Care, and also the worker directly involved with Violet's case were unfortunately not responded to. So let's hear Nicholas explain what has transpired over the last 2 months. Then I'll introduce you to the lovable Violet, who I had the pleasure of interviewing in her young grandson's home. If you want a David and Goliath story, take a listen. Luther Care may be big, but this grandma's spirit might just be bigger. This is one of those contentious topics that YouTube definitely won't let us talk about. How can you watch the full video? Head on down to the video description and choose one of the more free speech-inspired platforms we're on, including Rumble, Odyssey, or SuperU. Make sure you subscribe to us there so you don't miss
I
it.
think we're gonna have to buy fucking, what do you call it? The fucking other one.
For those traveling by air, this first day of 2022 looks a lot like the final days of last year.
I'm also just want to go home at the end of the day. If they want to kick off the new year like this.
FlightAware showing on top of those canceled flights more than 3,000 delayed.
Should've drove, dummy.
Airline staff shortages, a result of COVID, partially to blame. The flight attendants union not happy. The CDC cut quarantines from 10 to 5 days.
Maybe a short-term fix to staffing problems, possibly, but long-term hurt as more and more people are infected and we extend the life of the pandemic.
Ted and Lita Burr came to Florida for a 7-day vacation in the Keys. They've now spent 5 more days trying to get home. Your first flight was canceled because of COVID, and this one is delayed now because of the weather.
I say I got chemo at 7 o'clock in the morning Monday.
Oh,
So you need to get home.
And that don't look like we're gonna make it up.
Troubling with 5 kids, especially trying with cancellations. The Melman family was to leave Friday, Fort Lauderdale to Denver on Spirit Airlines. After a maddening 4-hour wait to talk to the airline, they rented a car, drove 4 hours to stay with relatives in Orlando. Hopefully they'll get out tonight.
You can either laugh or cry, and in the words of Marjorie Pay Hinckley, crying gives me a headache, so might as well laugh.
Weather tonight making matters worse. 42 million people under winter alerts. In Kentucky, severe flooding leading to water rescues, which is why flights in and out of the region are also delayed.
And Carrie's with us now. Carrie, how much longer are these delays?
Oh, fuck, no one gives a shit about your fucking plane trips. Like, I just don't care. Deal with it. Like...
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's Jasper Dillon here. In today's video, we have a lot of things on our plate to discuss, such as number one, the new restrictions supposedly being added today by the Premier of Quebec, since he's supposed to talk and address Canadians later on today, as well as the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, is also supposed to talk today to give an update on the C-19 situation. So we're going to talk about all of that and much more. Plus, I still see some questions and some doubts around the CWLV or the Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit. So we're going to address all those concerns in today's video. But again, before we do, make sure to smash that like button right down below like you guys always do. And if you're still not subscribed to the channel, make sure you do that. Now, let's start off today's video by discussing the number 1 point on today's agenda, as you guys can see on your screen, which is Trudeau to address Canadians to give an update on the C-19 situation. So, if I pull up Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's itinerary for Wednesday, December 22nd, you guys can see right over here that the Prime Minister will be speaking with the President-elect of Chile, Gabriel Boric. The Prime Minister then after will be speaking to the Chancellor of Germany, Olaf Scholz. And finally, at 12 p.m. Ottawa time, the Prime Minister will virtually address Canadians on the C-19 situation. And he will be accompanied to make an announcement with Chrystia Freeland, the Minister of Health, as well as the Minister of Employment, Workforce Development and Disability. In terms of now, what will the Prime Minister of Canada be focusing his speech on? You guys can see on your screen that Trudeau to give an update as provinces reinstate public health measures. So let's get through all of that and let's go to the most important part, which is right over here that says the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is set to deliver an update on the C-19 as the spread of the new variant is prompting more provinces to reinstate and tighten public health restrictions. And we already covered all of that. Quebec reported a record number of cases for a third day in a row, with the Omicron variant accounting for nearly 80% of the 5,043 new infections just reported yesterday. Public Security Minister Genevieve says, again from Quebec, says that she asked Ottawa for military help to accelerate the province's mass vaccination campaign. And Emergency Preparedness Minister Bill Blair has said that the rising case counts in Quebec and across Canada are deeply concerning, and the federal government will work with the provinces. Now, finally, Ontario is again investigating complaints of businesses or individuals reselling rapid antigen C-19 tests, which right now are available to each and every one of you at your local pharmacies or whatever you get your most supply of, completely free of cost. However, we're definitely seeing some people reselling those in despite of this huge demand right now that we're seeing. With anyone caught doing so facing steep fines, and several hospitals have introduced stricter visitor policies. So as you guys can see, we're definitely seeing more restrictions and more uncertainty in all these provinces across Canada. So it's definitely, we'll definitely look forward on what Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has to say today in that speech to Canadians. Now let's move on to point number 2 of today's agenda that has to say that Legault, Quebec's premier, to address Canadians in the evening to announce difficult choices ahead. So if we open up the premier's main Twitter account, you guys can see the tweet that I'm talking about right over here that says that as in many places in the world, Quebec is faced with very difficult choices right now. What guides us is the ability or not to treat sick Quebecers in the coming few weeks. We will come back to you tomorrow with our decisions. So that tomorrow is today, December 22nd, 2021, which Legault, the Premier of Quebec, will be talking in the evening to announce stricter restrictions even further to those announced just a couple of days ago. The restrictions added in Quebec, we already covered those in yesterday's video. However, as you guys can take a look on your screen, the Montreal Gazette reports that Quebec has already closed schools and bars, which we already know, reduced capacity to 50% in stores, restaurants, and limited gathering to 10 people. However, today, right over here, Quebec reported 8 deaths and a record of 5,043 new cases on Tuesday, a number that will reportedly climb to more than 6,000 on Wednesday, which is today. Hospitalizations also increased to a total of 415, the highest they've ever been since March, and about half of the network's current capacity. So will this mean that today the Premier of Quebec will be announcing a lockdown? Well, definitely we'll stay updated on what he has to say, and definitely once he appears before the media, before Canadians, I'll update you guys on what are his most recent updates and restrictions. Now, in a sign that caseloads could continue to climb, Quebec's Public Health Institute announced it now believes that the more transmissible variant is responsible for 80% of the new cases. The variant was only confirmed in the province 3 weeks ago, and right now you guys can see the crisis that is going on in the province. Now, the reason why we're focusing on Quebec, because as of right now, Quebec is the province with the most amount of cases and the most amount of cases with the new variant. So how this whole thing works is when one domino falls, and let's say when one particular province announced to go on a lockdown, all the other provinces basically do the same thing. They introduce tougher restrictions like Quebec has already done, and then once those tougher restrictions go for 1 or 2 weeks, then they go into a lockdown in that particular province. So that's why we're following closely what is going on in Quebec to see if that will be a parallel into the different provinces such as Ontario, Alberta, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and the others. So let's now move on to point number 3 of today's agenda, as you guys can see on the screen, which is a positive news coming out of South Africa, which mentions that the cases of the new variant are dropping. So let's take a look right over here from Google News that has to say that the Omicron variant are dropping in South Africa, potentially signaling to the end of the surge. So right over here, daily viruses case counts are notoriously unreliable as they can be affected by uneven testing, reporting delays, and other fluctuations. However, they are offering one tantalizing hint, far from conclusive yet, that the new variant may recede quickly after a ferocious spike that happened in South Africa. So the same thing will be, I guess, happening here in Canada, where right now we're still in the spikes, so we're still going up. However, once we reach that peak amount of infections, which in my personal opinion we have not up until now, then is when the wave will taper and will start going down. Now let's run through points number 4 and 5 of today's agenda pretty quickly, so then we can focus on the CWLB and the question that I'm still seeing in the comment section down below that I did want to address again in today's video. So point number 4 has to say that the government is currently pushing for boosters and rapid take-home tests. And number 5 is saying that Ontario is set to announce new supports for businesses, as yesterday Ontario's top doctor appeared before the media just to make some announcements on the C19 updates, as well as some other announcements for businesses as well as self-employed individuals. So if we go on to the point number 4, right over here, we can see that hundreds of thousands of Quebecers booked the C19 vaccine appointments Monday as cases soared in the province. So we're not going to go through all this particular details, but definitely it's not only in Quebec. I'm seeing this in Manitoba and BC and Ontario that a lot of people are right now booking their boosters if they're actually eligible for it. And the other piece of news is right over here. If Quebecers wait in long lineups for the free rapid C19 test kits, as you guys can see in this particular photo, that is mentioning that long lines are forming outside of pharmacies across the province as people look to get their hands on the C19 testing kits. Now, moving on to the CWLB, or the Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit, as you guys can see, I'm on the CRA's main website again to basically answer some of the confusion and some of the concerns that I've been seeing in the comment section down below of some people that are saying that they already applied for the CWLB, or that you guys can already apply for the CWLB. So I do want to clear that up in today's video. So as you guys can see, this is the announcement. This is the most recent announcement by the CRA that is saying that the CWLB applications are not yet available. The CWLB will only be available if a C19 lockdown in your region is designated. Currently, there are no designated CWLB regions. So as of right now, the page for the benefit exists. However, you cannot apply for this benefit since no province has officially declared their province into lockdown. Now, that said, we definitely know that Montreal and Quebec are right now in a kind of critical situation where they've already asked for military help for the federal government. So that is yet to see what later on today in the evening, what the Premier Legault will announce for Quebec. Will he announce a lockdown? And if he announces a lockdown, that is when you guys can apply for the CWLB. I'll keep you guys updated on that front. But that was it for today's video. I did want to definitely clear this up because I saw some confusion in the comment section down below. But again, that was it for today. And if you appreciated this kind of content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. But I'll see you guys on the next video on the tripod.
So as we wrap the year, and before you open the champagne, how about reading some tea leaves? Let's talk about the themes that will shape the year ahead. What will 2022 be all about? Will the pandemic end? Will China be made to pay finally? Will you be able to travel? Take up that new course that you've always wanted? We hope the answer to all of these questions is yes, but we don't know for sure. Here is what we think the broad trends will look like. Number 1, middle powers will shape geopolitics. They will rise. As the US loses face and China loses friends, middle powers like India, France, Brazil, Germany, and the UK will influence world affairs. Look at what's happened in the last couple of years. Starting with China, all the king's checkbooks and all the king's wolf warriors could not put Humpty Dumpty together again.
China's standing in the world today is at its lowest. The Wuhan virus did not help. The bullying made it worse. From America to Japan to Australia to Japan to Canada, in fact, China has picked up fights with almost every country. It continues to bury partners under debt. It alienated friends, blacklisted a top Sri Lankan bank, pushed Russia on its turf in Central Asia, continued its expansionist policies, and refused to resolve the border standoff with India. China's only friends now are North Korea and Pakistan. As for the United States, its superpowerdom suffered under Donald Trump. Joe Biden's Afghanistan exit left it in shreds. The Black Lives Matter protest in 2020, the storming of the US Capitol Hill in 2021, America's humiliating retreat from Afghanistan, its confused policy in West Asia, its inability to deal with Russia or Iran for that matter, all of it has dented its image. So allies are wary. There is a power vacuum and no force for constructive change. And that's where the middle powers come in. With their growing economies and rising geopolitical stature, these countries will establish a multipolar order with alliances to suit their national interest and not beholden to superpowers that can ditch them. Theme number 2, mind over body. Increased focus on mental health. And mind sight, which is the ability to analyze your internal emotional world and restore order there. A lot of us confuse health with physical well-being. We exercise, we eat healthy, we drink water, we sleep on time, and yet we don't feel great sometimes. And that's because we're not focusing on mental health. The pandemic made us acknowledge how important it is. The year ahead will push it in the mainstream. Your thoughts are your mental link to your environment. They allow you to assess your situation. They allow you to make choices in life. If your thoughts are positive, your body will be healthy. And studies have proven this. Those who suffer from mental health issues have a higher chance of health complications, chronic diseases, obesity, or a weakened immune system. 2022 will be a year to focus on this mind-body connection. If you're stressed, your body reacts as if it's under attack. It releases hormones that increase blood pressure. If you're happy and optimistic, it releases chemicals that boost your healing power. You've studied all of this in school. This year, there's a higher chance we'll apply it in our adult lives, or so we hope. Trend number 3, the great reshuffle. Rethinking careers, rethinking priorities, rethinking workplaces and relationships. Our world has changed dramatically. Our job is now a part of our life and not our life. Is it worth the stress? More and more people are asking this question and making new beginnings. This trend will continue in 2022. Earlier this year, we told you about the Great Resignation. A record 4.3 million Americans resigned in the month of August alone. A Microsoft survey suggests that 41% of the global workforce is considering quitting their jobs. 46% are planning a major career transition. What does this mean for employers? Talent will rule the roost. Talent retention will be the biggest challenge going forward. A LinkedIn survey has thrown up some interesting points on what triggered this reshuffle. The virus, of course, tops the list. It made us look at work differently. We want flexibility, we want hybrid working. Location-neutral teams are a thing. They will be the trend going forward. Second factor behind this reshuffle is the shifting work dynamic. The world is focusing on economic recovery, so companies want the best and the brightest. The demand for talent has shot up. Employers are vying for good resources and not vice versa. Not all skills come from work experience. Companies are looking for broader talent pools. They're focusing on skills over degrees. The third reason is simply the yearning for a fresh start. The pandemic pulled brakes on all our plans. So after 2 years of this forced and painful emergency mode, a lot of people have decided to work on themselves and for themselves. This disruption is here to stay. So if you're an employer, embrace it. Innovate, adapt, and you'll come out on top. The next theme is sports washing. What's that? It's simply using sport as a political tool. In 2021, a lot of governments used prestigious sporting events to boost their reputation or to simply airbrush human rights abuses. And that's a problematic trend. It will continue in the coming year. In February, the Beijing Winter Olympics will begin, the Genocide Games. Despite China's abysmal human rights record and the genocide of Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang, despite the forced disappearances of athletes like Peng Shuai, China will host these games. Then we have Qatar.
This year, Formula One made its debut in Qatar. In 2022, they will hold the FIFA World Cup. Notwithstanding allegations of censorship and oppression of women in this country. Saudi Arabia too is using high-profile sporting events in a bid to rebrand itself. According to one report, Riyadh has spent $1.5 billion on sports washing. It's hosting golf tournaments, acquiring football clubs, and hiring some of the best athletes as brand ambassadors. Yes, the country is making progress on several fronts, but its deep pockets are washing out the challenges that remain. Now, here's the thing. A sporting event cannot be a tool for states to hide their oppression. Sport is all about a fair and equal contest. Sports washing undermines that spirit. Unfortunately, it will continue in the year ahead. What about the economy? We are entering another seesaw year. The pandemic has spelled doom for the global economy. Lockdowns have infected growth. Variants are boosting uncertainty. As we enter 2022, this uncertainty shall persist. We're starting the year with an Omicron surge. It will hurt business. It will impact growth and recovery. But the virus and its variants are only one challenge for businesses. Supply chain disruptions are also hurting them. They stalled much of the global recovery last year. Shipping snarls left companies scampering for raw material. There were empty shelves at supermarkets. Chip shortage hit the auto sector. These supply bottlenecks will continue to hamper growth in 2022. Then we have inflation. It's not getting better anytime soon. Supply shortage, along with sudden demand, has pushed global inflation to multi-year highs. In the United States, core inflation has soared to a 29-year high. And this has spooked investors. They fear that central banks will be forced to prematurely raise interest rates to tame soaring prices. It's a bit of a vicious cycle, you could say. And finally, we have China. It may export a financial pandemic now. China is suffering an economic slowdown, like a lot of other countries, only its impact is bigger. The world's second largest economy is cracking down on almost everything from Alibaba and Tencent to Evergrande and Kaisa. Beijing's crackdown is adding to investor worries. As Xi Jinping ramps up his rhetoric and China's economy slows, the repercussions are going to be global. Theme number 6. Survival of the sustainable. With due apologies to Charles Darwin, the fittest is not enough anymore. Climate change is here, and sustainable solutions are the only way to deal with it. The world has been talking about this for a while now. It will be forced to walk the talk in the coming year. The COP26 summit in Glasgow failed. Surveys say starting 2022, global emissions will be back to pre-pandemic levels. The world is expected to emit 420 billion tons of carbon dioxide. 420 billion. While major economies refuse to keep their end of the bargain, smaller countries are showing the way. Chile, for instance, just rewrote its constitution to take on climate change. The electric vehicle train is accelerating. The global EV market is projected to grow by more than 26% in the coming year. India alone plans to invest $15 billion in the EV market. Oil-dependent economies are working on diversification. They're investing money in renewable sources of energy like Saudi Arabia. It is planning a pivot away from oil. It plans to generate 50% of its energy from renewables by 2030. In fact, the United Nations has proclaimed this year, 2022, as the year of basic sciences for sustainable development. It says 2022 will mobilize world leaders to put more effort into sustainable development. Here's hoping that happens. And finally, the question that we've all been asking for 2 years. When will this end? Will 2022 be the year of the end of the pandemic? After 2 years of devastation, things were finally starting to look better. Then came Omicron and clouded our hopes. Every day brings new figures, new cases, and newer worries. We're back to familiar territory, back to keeping a check on updated curves and guidelines, travel restrictions. But there's still hope. The World Health Organization says this virus may not disappear, but the acute phase of the pandemic might just. Meaning, the worst may be behind us. We may not be able to eradicate the virus, but we may see it move out of the pandemic phase and turn into an endemic. The global health body has also added that this will only happen if every country ends up vaccinating at least 70% of its total population. So what we need to do as we enter 2022 is to ensure an equitable access of vaccines for all. At the same time, we cannot afford to let our guard down. We still need to take precautions, monitor our symptoms, adopt healthier habits, keep the mask on, and not lose hope. That's the most important. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.
I can't.
2021.
Well, at least
How
I
do you
can know
look
what's
back at this?
happening in India. So that's awesome. Canadian news doesn't exist anymore, apparently. Pretty sure there's squirrels living in the vent.
Hello, dear viewers, and welcome back to another episode of This Week in Canada. Thank you for joining me. As you can tell, I'm not in the office, and I just wanted to do a quick update on what's going on in Quebec. So I'm just going to jump right into the news. I don't know if you heard, but Francois Legault has implemented another curfew. This is the second time this year that there is a curfew. You just had to end it up on a high note, right?
That's what I was
January
saying.
6th of 2021, Francois Legault decides, hey, we're going to be the only place in basically the world, us in like North Korea, we're going to implement a curfew. We can't handle the cases. Our hospitalizations are through the roof, and we need to take better care of our nurses and whatnot. Okay, whatever. That lasts 5 months, goes all the way till May. And now we have Omicron. And Omicron cases, of course, are skyrocketing. I'm not going to fear-monger. It's the sniffles for the most part. I've had the sniffles. Everybody's had the sniffles. If you get tested, you're probably going to test positive because Omicron is everywhere. Of course, this is leading to that many hospitalizations. If you are hospitalized with Omicron, it's likely because you are an incidental. So you go in for something else, so you break your arm, and they test you because it's protocol. When you're positive, that's a hospitalization because of Omicron. But not to get too into it, but I wanted to talk about Dr. Jordan Peterson, who I'm sure you know. He's a thought leader in Canada. Dr. Jordan Peterson, very intelligent man. I respect his opinion quite a bit, obviously. He went on a bit of a Twitter rant on Omicron, and specifically, not Omicron, but Quebec, and Quebec's curfew. And what the hell is going on? So I just want to talk about an article I wrote about this, and just kind of explain to you what's going on in the province. So we'll put it up on the screen here. Dr. Jordan Peterson is calling for Montrealers to resist curfew restrictions that are once again being implemented in Quebec. As cases of the mild Omicron variant, I want to make that very clear, it's mild, continue to skyrocket in the province. The cure is far worse than the disease, wrote Peterson in a Twitter thread posted on Friday, the day that the province is set to impose the measure on its highly vaccinated population. As I wrote this article, I did look it up. I believe that Quebec has the highest rate of vaccination for its population outside of the Maritimes. The Maritimes do things differently. They have different lockdowns. They have high vaccination rates. A lot of trust in the government. Quebec's after the Maritimes and just ahead of BC, I believe, in terms of vaccination. So, just laying down the groundwork, this curfew is affecting the most populated region in Canada. The province's premier, Francois Legault, announced on Thursday that a curfew would be implemented on Friday, today, New Year's Eve, starting at 10 p.m. and ending at 5 a.m. So if you were planning on having people over for New Year's, that is now illegal. You cannot have people over for New Year's unless they live alone. So you can have one person over at max if that person lives alone. Otherwise, personal meetings are restricted. No end date was given, of course, though the premier assured that it would be the first restriction removed once the situation stabilizes. Of course, we have no idea what that means. No specifics, but just keep in mind, last time it went from January 6th to May 28th. That's what we're dealing with here. A similar curfew was implemented in Quebec last January and until last May, what I just said. Thousands were ticketed and fined for leaving their homes, with the province raking in over $28 million in revenue from tickets. The province went so far as to ticket the homeless, with Legault saying that non-homeless people would pretend to be homeless to avoid tickets. This was a big, actually not that big a controversy. This happened after I believe, an Inuit man, either way he was homeless, died in a porta potty because he was trying to avoid being ticketed. Obviously, Montreal is very cold in the winter, so this guy was seeking shelter to avoid being ticketed, died in a porta potty. Very dignified, right? And then for the premier to go and say, no, we're going to still ticket homeless people, because what if you're not homeless? What if you're pretending to be homeless? You know how people pretend to be homeless? Private gatherings in homes were also prohibited by the premier, with those who live alone being those, and those who need a caregiver being the only exceptions, is what it would say. So this is what Jordan Peterson's saying. Do we care nothing for our liberties? No private gatherings with near 80% vaccination rate and a curfew? That's what I'm saying, Petey. Obviously, we don't care for their liberties here. I've not seen much online about any protests or anything. Just a lot of people, just a lot of jabber, a lot of yap. A lot of people saying that they're mad, but I'm sure there's going to be no action. And we're just going to roll over and show our bellies like we always do. It's getting so frustrating, and I don't know if there's anything that we can do about it. I mean, I can't go anywhere. I can't go to the States. Ontario, is Ontario that much better? I mean, it doesn't seem like it. So let's continue. Quebec leads all provinces outside the Maritimes in vaccinations. Is there no excuse too small for the totalitarianism wannabes? What the hell is wrong with this country, says Peterson. 135 hospitalizations, and Quebec citizens are subjected to draconian measures. We are doing to our society exactly what cowardly professors already let happen to the universities. Resist, Montreal. Take to the streets at 10 p.m. tonight. Defy this appalling law, or lose more freedoms to the bureaucrats. This is a big ask. Obviously, he's kind of asking people to potentially get ticketed. I will be. I'm going to be walking around. I'm going to check out, see what's going on. Maybe I'll take a few videos. I can show them next week and report on what I saw on the ground. Fines for breaking curfews range between $1,000 and $6,000, but young people under 14 must make sure that you know that you are only subjected to a fine of $500 if you get caught outside after dark. That makes perfect sense. That's fully based on science. That isn't just a rule that we made up because we made $28 million last year and we're broke as shit and rely on Alberta for equalization payments. This is not the first time that Peterson has unloaded on Canada's response to the COVID pandemic. In a November interview with Dave Rubin, Peterson lamebasted his country's policies as well as its political leaders. He said, policy is being driven by people who are more afraid than they should be. Peterson said that he had spoken to a senior advisor to one of the provincial parties who told him that COVID policy is driven by nothing but opinion polls. Isn't that reassuring to know it's not really based on science, but to know that it's based on, are we going to get reelected? That's really what I like to hear, is that people with no backbone are leading COVID policy, and the public is partially responsible for this too. Get educated, people. Curfews don't work. What's the logic in a curfew? You know what I'm going to be doing? Allegedly not doing is going over before 10 p.m. and then leaving at 5 a.m. That's what everyone does. And you just keep it a little quiet, close your blinds, and then nothing's going to happen. You're just getting more people, bottlenecking people, funneling them into people's homes before 10 p.m. Open your brains, guys. And this is the worst part of it all, right? Premier remains popular and appears invincible. So, despite the controversy, the ruling coalition Avenir of Quebec remains popular in Quebec. Recent figures show the party handfully outcompeting their contemporaries, the CAQ. Currently poll around 46% with Quebec Liberals, Quebec Solidaire, and Parti Québécois all trailing by at least 20 points, as if those alternatives are that much better than the CAQ. I mean, this has to be the most dysfunctional province in the country. I know I live in a bubble. I understand I live in a metropolitan area. I'm a young guy. A lot of my friends are much more liberal than I am. Some of them. So I'm not exposed to too many alternative viewpoints. But I know a few really kept people from like the boonies and stuff. And they hate this. I don't know who this is appealing to. Obviously, I'm not an expert on Quebec. I've only lived here for 5 or 6 years. But I don't understand who this government's serving. I know this isn't a particularly funny episode, but I'm kind of peeved. The party seems so untouchable in the fact that it remains likely that the party will win a majority in the coming 2022 election. Quebec is still the only province in Canada to have imposed a curfew during the pandemic. So that's the state of things in Quebec. We'll put the article up on the screen the whole time. I'm sure it just was, thanks to our great editors. And I'll put it in the links below if you want to check it out. I wrote this in a fury, just very angrily got my facts together and wrote this. I mean, there's nothing funny about it. I know this is supposed to be a somewhat comedic show, but the last curfew was already one of the worst times of my life. And now I'm going to have to go through it. Although this time I have a sweetie, which is really nice. I have a girlfriend now. But anyhow, I just wanted to let you know what the situation was. I want to wish you a very happy New Year. Wish you a Merry Christmas. Christ is born. Hallelujah. And see you next week. Before you go, why don't you go to the links below. Check out my article. And why don't you give us a donation? If you got a little Christmas money left over, I know holiday seasons, lots of gay Yule tides and spending and whatever, tithing, whatever. But if you have an extra $5, why don't you give it to us? And you can experience my article without the advertisements. Isn't that sweet? Also, you should check out our Rumble, the Rumble Clips page. If you're watching us on Rumble right now, hello. Thank you very much for doing so and supporting us. And become a member. Give us a donation. Check out. Thank you very much for joining me. My name is Roberto Whitcomb Cruz. I love you. Goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
So as we wrap the year, and before you open the champagne, how about reading some tea leaves? Let's talk about the themes that will shape the year ahead. What will 2022 be all about? Will the pandemic end? Will China be made to pay finally? Will you be able to travel? Take up that new course that you've always wanted? We hope the answer to all of these questions is yes, but we don't know for sure. Here is what we think the broad trends will look like. Number one, middle powers will shape geopolitics. They will rise. As the US loses face and China loses friends, middle powers like India, France, Brazil, Germany, and the UK will influence world affairs. Look at what's happened in the last couple of years. Starting with China, all the king's checkbooks and all the king's wolf warriors could not put Humpty Dumpty together again. China's standing in the world today is at its lowest. The Wuhan virus did not help. The bullying made it worse. From America to Japan to Australia to Japan to Canada, in fact, China has picked up fights with almost every country. It continues to bury partners under debt. It alienated friends, blacklisted a top Sri Lankan bank, pushed Russia on its turf in Central Asia, continued its expansionist policies, and refused to resolve the border standoff with India. China's only friends now are North Korea and Pakistan. As for the United States, its superpowerdom suffered under Donald Trump. Joe Biden's Afghanistan exit left it in shreds. The Black Lives Matter protest in 2020, the storming of the US Capitol Hill in 2021, America's humiliating retreat from Afghanistan, its confused policy in West Asia, its inability to deal with Russia or Iran for that matter, all of it has dented its image. So allies are wary. There is a power vacuum and no force for constructive change. And that's where the middle powers come in. With their growing economies and rising geopolitical stature, these countries will establish a multipolar order with alliances to suit their national interest and not beholden to superpowers that can ditch them. Theme number 2, mind over body. Increased focus on mental health. And mind sight, which is the ability to analyze your internal emotional world and restore order there. A lot of us confuse health with physical well-being. We exercise, we eat healthy, we drink water, we sleep on time, and yet we don't feel great sometimes. And that's because we're not focusing on mental health. The pandemic made us acknowledge how important it is. The year ahead will push it in the mainstream. Your thoughts are your mental link to your environment. They allow you to assess your situation. They allow you to make choices in life. If your thoughts are positive, your body will be healthy. And studies have proven this. Those who suffer from mental health issues have a higher chance of health complications, chronic diseases, obesity, or a weakened immune system. 2022 will be a year to focus on this mind-body connection. If you're stressed, your body reacts as if it's under attack. It releases hormones that increase blood pressure. If you're happy and optimistic, it releases chemicals that boost your healing power. We've studied all of this in school. This year, there's a higher chance we'll apply it in our adult lives, or so we hope. Trend number 3, the great reshuffle. rethinking careers, rethinking priorities, rethinking workplaces and relationships. Our world has changed dramatically. Our job is now a part of our life and not our life. Is it worth the stress? More and more people are asking this question and making new beginnings. This trend will continue in 2022. Earlier this year, we told you about the Great Resignation. A record 4.3 million Americans resigned in the month of August alone. A Microsoft survey suggests that 41% of the global workforce is considering quitting their jobs. 46% are planning a major career transition. What does this mean for employers? Talent will rule the roost. Talent retention will be the biggest challenge going forward. A LinkedIn survey has thrown up some interesting points on what triggered this reshuffle. The virus, of course, tops the list. It made us look at work differently. We want flexibility, we want hybrid working. Location-neutral teams are a thing. They will be the trend going forward. The second factor behind this reshuffle is the shifting work dynamic. The world is focusing on economic recovery, so companies want the best and the brightest. The demand for talent has shot up. Employers are vying for good resources and not vice versa. Not all skills come from work experience. Companies are looking for broader talent pools. They're focusing on skills over degrees. The third reason is simply the yearning for a fresh start. The pandemic pulled brakes on all our plans. So after 2 years of this forced and painful emergency mode, a lot of people have decided to work on themselves and for themselves. This disruption is here to stay. So if you're an employer, embrace it. Innovate, adapt, and you'll come out on top. The next theme is sports washing. What's that? It's simply using sport as a political tool. In 2021, a lot of governments used prestigious sporting events to boost their reputation or to simply airbrush human rights abuses. And that's a problematic trend. It will continue in the coming year. In February, the Beijing Winter Olympics will begin, the Genocide Games. Despite China's abysmal human rights record and the genocide of Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang, despite the forced...
No, don't worry. We're gonna ban any of the politicians. All the ones. I mean, as in the one that goes. Good job. Thanks, Trudeau. You're really proving your point. Labor leaders react to new provincial restrictions. No keywords in there. What's the world? What? World is actually a prison? Yeah, kind of.
Starting Monday, fully vaccinated Albertans will only be required to isolate for 5 days, down from 10 if their COVID symptoms go away. The province says to prevent disruptions to the labor force.
So that change is based on the evidence that those who are fully immunized shed virus for a shorter amount of time if they have a breakthrough infection.
Alberta's health minister adding that exceptions could be made to shorten the 5-day isolation requirement for essential workers. But while the province makes the change, labor leaders are warning it will lead to disastrous consequences.
Even the premiers acknowledged that Omicron is so infectious that it's quite possible that virtually everybody will be infected by this. The challenge becomes, what happens if we don't do anything to make sure they don't all get sick at the same time?
First Vice President of the United Nurses of Alberta, Danielle Larrivee, tells me that allowing COVID-positive healthcare workers back on the job would put even more strain on the province's already taxed hospitals. With a tidal wave of Omicron cases, she says leaders aren't doing enough.
They've pushed back school for a week, but while the kids aren't going to school, I can still go to a casino, or I can go to a restaurant, or I can go play soccer, or go watch a hockey game.
Larrivee adding, as much as everyone wishes the pandemic was over, we aren't there yet.
When's the last time you saw thousands of people getting influenza simultaneously, overwhelming the healthcare system, shutting down surgeries, even shutting down chemo and other necessary life-saving services?
Gil McGowan with the Alberta Federation of Labor agrees, saying the government is choosing politics over public health.
Unfortunately, I think what we have here is a government that wants to live in that fantasy and is willing to sacrifice workers and their health in order to get there. Just because we're tired doesn't mean that the pandemic is over.
In Edmonton, Darcy Robchan, City News.
Honestly, I don't think 2 days is going to make much of a difference.
Not going to make much difference. I can't really say it's a good or bad decision per se.
I just don't see the reason for them to wait. They might as well just go back.
Every day counts for our kids.
You know, people aren't like against fucking restrictions. People are against bullshit.
Starting Monday, fully vaccinated Albertans will only be required to isolate for 5 days, down from 10 if their COVID symptoms go away, the province says, to prevent disruptions to the labor force.
So that change is based on the evidence that those who are fully immunized shed virus for a shorter amount of time if they have a breakthrough infection.
Alberta's health minister added that exceptions could be made to shorten the 5-day isolation requirement for essential workers. But while the province makes the change, labor leaders are warning it will lead to disastrous consequences.
Even the premiers acknowledged that Omicron is so infectious that it's quite possible that virtually everybody will be infected by this. The challenge becomes, what happens if we don't do anything to make sure they don't all get sick at the same time?
First Vice President of the United Nurses of Alberta, Danielle Larrivee, tells me that allowing COVID-positive healthcare workers back on the job would...
I can't hear it twice. Wow, you won't even let me see the related videos? We're like worse than the fucking States. Like, this fucking fucked up. And you're letting fucking COVID doctors and nurses go back to work. Like, what? But you're not eating your food. I don't know what you want me to do. Like, you don't get cheese, you don't get treats. The National. CBC. All the CBC you could ever possibly need. What other news would you even want? Like, oh, you're just gonna go fucking
To the United States now, where the
fucking
humongous
bullshit. Eat a cunt, fucking asshole.
put even more strain on the...
All 5 videos. Cool. I get 2 less than last time. Same videos for all 4 tabs. I can't. Watched. Good. Okay. Dude. I just want to watch something that's not from the government, and that is regarding the topic. Literally, those are my only 2 fucking requirements, and I can't even do that. I can't even, like, fucking be in my apartment and fucking do shit, so, like... Putin. I love him. He's great. Putin is great. Russia's fucking... We shit on Russia when we think we get credit for it.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I think we can start working. Well, it's a bit far, the distance, but I hope that technically it has been properly arranged and you can hear me well enough. And I hope I will also hear you well. Mr. Peskov, I believe that we don't need a lengthy introduction. Let's kick off. That will be better and more interesting for everybody. In the course of the press conference, I'll try to take your questions. And without any introductory remarks, I will satisfy your curiosity and inform you what the outcomes of this year are and what we expect in the near future and what will be our aspirations. Okay, we're off we go. At the outset, I'd like to give the floor to the absolute dean of the Russian diplomatic corps, one of the heads of the Interfax news agency, Vyacheslav Terehov. Please fetch the mic to the first row. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Well, that will be my sound. My volume will be a bit muted or mixed. Or Danford, you said that you will tell us a word about the economic development. So, this past 2 years, we have been waging a global war against COVID, and now it's going to be a war against Omicron. So, how that impacted the economy of our country, and how can we get out of that pit? Are there any enablers or drivers? And do we have to expect our aim for a full vaccination to provide for the successful economic development? And the main question to you, of course, is how you assess the work of the economic headquarters, which is the government, as well as the central bank. And I have just mentioned the central bank. And I just have recalled that I quite often ask you questions about the central banks, but this is a mere coincidence. Thank you. Well, if I take all your questions, I think, well, if I am able to do that, I think that will bring the press conference to an end and will last through the press conference because they are overarching, they're quite general, and they encompass the main areas of our activities. You have said that the world has been in warfare against COVID, and that is still ongoing, and we know about the dangers of the spread of the Omicron strain. But I really hope that we will talk that during today's press conf. As you know, a group of doctors and medics is now in the South African Republic, where the strain originates from, and this undertaking is successful, and special thanks to the South African colleagues. Well, with respect to the impact on the Russian economy and what we expect in the near future, well, we also talked a lot about that, and definitely our economy being faced off with the COVID challenge and the forced restrictions in our economy and the social sphere, and I will talk about that at length today. So still, we turned kind of more mobilized and prepared for such shocks than many other developed and advanced economies. If you take 5-7 leading economies or even G20, our economy fell by around 3%, which is much better than other leading economies, and we recovered at a much faster pace. And you know the figures. Last year we could speak about the nascent trends, and now I have a chart in front of me with some numbers. Not to invent things, the GDP growth is expected at 4.5% this year. As of October, it was 4.3%. The industrial output increases by 5%, and the processing industry is by 5.2%. The crops of grains this year are a bit below the previous levels. 123 million tons versus 135 last year. That is a very good outcome, and will be self-sufficient and will have a lot of capability for exports. The fixed investments are at 7.6% as of November, and as of 2021 we'll have a 6% rise. Last year we had a slump of 1.4%, and our construction has been doing quite well. 90 million of new square meters built for the first time
ever in our news history. And I'd like to congratulate all the construction workers, all the personnel, the construction personnel, and the managers and everybody. The real salary take-home pay, average take-home pay, has started growing, and the real disposable incomes are now on the rise. Last year we had -2%, and this year we expect a growth, and definitely we'll talk inflation, and inflation is at 8% as we project, which is much more than previously expected. But anyway, the real salary growth is around 4.1% as of 2021. The real income will increase by 5.3%. Definitely, this is the average indicators. Well, we do have, for the sake of statistics, to handle average values and numbers. We have some benchmarks, and we'll talk our incomes and livelihoods in greater detail. The unemployment rates. Our target was to return to the pre-pandemic levels, but now we have our unemployment lower than we had before. We had 4.6 to 4.7% of unemployment. Now it's 4.3 or 4.4% in 2021, which is a very good parameter of the overall economic performance. Although some of the hardships arise with respect to the labour market and the number of the people employed on construction sites and in the construction sector. So the trade account is now, last year was at 24 billion of surplus, and this year the trade account will be 184. The foreign debt has gone down slightly to around 4%, which is one of the lowest parameters worldwide. Other important numbers that testify to the performance of the government, the central bank, and the state per se. The international reserves was at 595 billion USD. Now it is at 625. And the National Welfare Fund is at 185 billion USD, which speaks about the good macroeconomic performance and sustainability of our economy. And what worries us is the life expectancy. It was 71.5 years, and now the life expectancy has gone down slightly to 71 years, which probably is accounted for partly by the pandemic of COVID. So more or less it is like this. And I think that the work of the government and the central bank deserves, well, all a satisfactory mark, satisfactory grade. The results are positive. So now, with respect to the growth drivers and enablers and the vaccination, whether we need a sweeping vaccination or not, well, we have talked about those growth drivers a lot with respect to our specific situation in this country, starting from the post-war period since the end of World War II in 1945. I mean, the challenges and the drivers that we face. I've just talked about greater mortality rates and lower life expectancy. And in this respect, one of the main problems, main goals of ours is aggravating. I mean, the demographics from the humanitarian standpoint, from the geopolitical standpoint, the population 146 million for this vast and huge territory is insufficient, and economics-wise, we lack the manpower. Now we have 81 something million of the working age people, and we are
to increase that considerably by 2024 to 2030. That will be one of the economic growth enablers. And I underscore the geopolitical component and the humanitarian dimension. So saving our people, which the famous writer Solzhenitsyn told us about, is one of the overarching goals of ours. Besides, and apart from that, we should develop our infrastructure, and we have been taking strenuous efforts in this respect. You know that 500 billion was earmarked out of the federal budget to improve our infrastructure directly. Then, within the national projects, we adopt